Hey y'all. Hey y'all. I keep saying hey y'all like I'm some country person, but I guess maybe I am country. My family's from North Florida. Anyway, hey friends. Welcome back to Tell You the Truth. I am your host, Brittany Sharpton, and today we are going to talk about something that I used to struggle with, and I am actively working towards addressing JOMO, the joy of missing out versus FOMO, fear of missing out. Now, don't get me wrong, I still do feel some type of way sometimes when I feel like people are doing something or having fun and I'm missing out, but it got a little bit exhausting. I'm not here to talk about the typical hustle versus rest conversation because honestly, we've heard that narrative a million times. Still very valid, but we've heard it a million times. I wanted to talk about something different, opting out of the noise and tuning into yourself. I used to be someone who had to be at every event, on every project, in every committee, or on every committee rather, in every room. Like, if I wasn't involved, then I was somehow missing the magic. And honestly, it was exhausting. So I had to ask myself, Brittany, are you doing this because it genuinely brings me joy? Or am I doing it because I'm afraid of what people will think if I don't? Or what may happen if I don't say yes to being a part of this or that? And I'm left out. And that question led me to a deeper reflection, a truth check, if you will. I realized that my anxiety wasn't just coming from feeling overwhelmed, it was coming from the subconscious belief that if I wasn't always on, always in the mix, always on the scene, then maybe I wasn't as valuable or as relevant as I thought. That hit me hard because when did I start giving so much power to external validation? I had to really have a really tough, slightly uncomfortable talk with myself. FOMO is overrated. I mean, when did we get so obsessed with trying to be everywhere at once, even if it's draining the life out of us? The truth is, JOMO, the joy of missing out, isn't even about missing out at all. It's about choosing to tune in to what matters most to you, curating your life in a way that feeds your soul instead of drains it. And there's power in choosing the no that creates space for the things that align with your values. You can't be at peace and in constant pursuit at the same time. So I had to let go of this idea that being busy equals being fulfilled. Sometimes the most fulfilling choice is to do less or nothing at all so that you can actually feel more. So now I want to talk about when overcommitment becomes self-sabotage. When overcommitment becomes self-sabotage. I'm going to get pretty vulnerable for a second. There was a time when I realized that my need to be involved in everything was actually a form of self sabotage. That seems like weird and counterintuitive, but hear me out. We don't talk about this enough, but sometimes we overcommit to avoid sitting with our own thoughts, our own struggles. It's so much easier to be constantly moving, constantly on the go, constantly having all these commitments than to sit still and confront what's really going on internally. So I was filling up my calendar as a way to avoid myself, to avoid what may be going on in other facets of my life. When I started choosing JOMO, the joy of missing out, I realized it was less about being antisocial or a hermit or being MIA or lazy and more about protecting my energy and focusing on what I really wanted out of life. And trust me, I'm still working on it. It's really about what's worth your time and what's not, and knowing what fuels you and what just keeps you on autopilot. So let's talk about the flip side of saying no, dealing with that discomfort, because there is some discomfort that comes with saying no. Once you practice it more and more, it becomes easier, but there's still some slight discomfort, especially if you've always been that person who thrives on being everywhere, doing everything, being a part of every organization, sitting on every board, being just super active in the community or in your professional space or in your friend group. So the fear of being forgotten or missing out on opportunities is super real. But here's where the growth happens. When you learn to sit, whew, when you learn to sit with that discomfort and trust that the things meant for you will find you, even if you're not grinding yourself in the ground to chase them. It's about relearning how to trust your own timing and being okay with the fact that your path might look different from others. It's about realizing that sometimes the best way to catch up is to slow down. I gotta say that one more time. It's about realizing that sometimes the best way to catch up is to slow down. The big part of JOMO is about knowing what's enough for you. We live in a world that's always screaming more, 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 but rarely do we stop and ask ourselves, what's my enough? What's my limit on more? Now, when it comes to those coins, I mean, it's limitless, but for the sake of this conversation, what's my enough? Not what looks good on social media, not what sounds impressive at networking events, but what feels right in your gut. What's your peace? Your joy, your success. For me, JOMO has been a journey towards defining what success looks like on my own terms. I'm learning that being selective with my time, my energy, and my commitments is a form of self respect and self care. It's about choosing quality over quantity in every area of my life, whether it's friendships, career, even how I spend my weekends. There's so much freedom in being able to say, this is what I want, and this is enough for me. And another thing about really defining success, you hear that term thrown around so often. What does success look like for you? Define your own success. And it takes you just sitting with, what do I really want out of this life? Because it is true. I, for example, consider myself an extremely ambitious, hardworking, competitive, go getter type of person. And, I am admittedly, and I'm trying to give myself some more grace, extremely hard on myself. And a lot of that comes from me not feeling that I have attained the level of success that I feel like I should have by this stage in my life. And that's professionally, my personal life, for sure, financially. It's a really hard thing to sit with because I think a lot of people would consider me a successful person. And sure, I have achieved above average things, absolutely. And I'm proud of those things. But would I consider myself successful? I don't know. And then sometimes I think, am I just continuously moving the goalpost? But what it really is, when I really thought about it, is I have never sat out and like written out a balanced scorecard or a real plan of what does success look like to you, Brittany? You don't think that you're as successful as you should be. Okay, what is that should be? And even that phrase, as successful as I should be, the should be is rooted in comparison. So, of course, I'm thinking my portfolio should have more zeros in it. I should have a ring on this finger. I should have my family. I should, for example, I've always wanted to be in media, and even doing this podcast, it brings me joy. But I had so much trepidation about getting back out there to even start this podcast after such a really, really, really challenging season in my life that I'm still going through. And I look at, you look at other people who you know are not nearly as creative or talented, or their story isn't as layered, and they just don't have the ingredients. And now I don't mean to come across as arrogant whatsoever, but I'm really dissecting this like there's absolutely no reason why you are not here and you're here instead. And for me, I have felt like you've failed, and that's not a good feeling. I have to sit back and ask, what would make you feel successful? Defining what that actually looks like for you and not what someone else told me success is. And unlearning that is huge. Rewiring your brain and your mindset to do things because that's what you want to do, or how you look at life versus how you believe you should show up, or what someone else told you you should be. Or even sometimes people don't mean any harm, they will gas you up, or not even gas you up, be telling you the truth. You have so much potential. I can so see you doing this. That's happened to me most of my life. You could be this, you could do that, you can be this. And they're right. And I appreciate that because, again, like I'm saying, I'm so hard on myself. And hearing that from other people, I'm like, okay, like, you know what? Maybe I am the shit. And I get that swag and spark back in me, and I go, 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 go. But a lot of times too, when I hear these things, I'm like, okay, well, I'm here and others have told me you can be here. Clearly, I have not reached my pinnacle, so I haven't reached success. I am not successful. That may be the wrong effed up way to think about things, but that's kind of some thought process. I hope that makes sense. And I am a work in progress and just trying to navigate this messy and complex life as best as I can, trying to live in my purpose, whatever that is. I'm still trying to figure that out. But mostly what actually feels good to me. Because sincerely, all I want, and I don't know why I'm getting emotional, but it's just to be happy, to feel like I'm living in my purpose, to feel fulfilled. I want to feel like I'm doing things or have done things or I'm working towards things that are a part of a strong and impactful legacy. I never want to do something just to do it. Life is so short. I've experienced life is so short. So while I'm here, I want to be loved. I want to love. I want to feel at peace. I want to be free to do literally whatever I want to do. But I want to live in a purpose filled life and feel fulfilled doing it. And I think when I do that, I will be happy. And even me saying that, I feel bad because it's like, oh my God, when I do this, then I will be happy, which is true. That's also something you have to like be happy in the midst of the journey, blah, blah, blah. I've heard all that shit. I shouldn't even say I've heard all that shit. I've heard all that. But that's just the process that I'm trying to take to figure out, what does success really look like to you, Brittany? What is enough? At what point this is enough and you feel like, okay, I'm successful. So there's my truth. So, wrapping it up, the joy of missing out isn't about absence, really. It's actually about presence. The joy of missing out isn't about isolating yourself. It's not about opting out of life. It's about opting into the moments, relationships, and experiences that actually matter to you. It's about being present in the spaces where you truly feel alive and at peace instead of scattering your energy in a million different directions because you feel obligated to. So whether that looks like staying in on a Friday night with a glass of wine and a good book, or watching some ratchet television show on the OWN network, no shade to the OWN network, I love it, I watch them all, or pop the balloon. That's one of my recent favorite discoveries. Such a great guilty pleasure. Or stepping back from opportunities that don't align with your purpose. JOMO is really about reclaiming your right to live life on your terms. It's about learning that not everything that glitters is gold, and sometimes the joy of missing out is realizing that what you've been chasing wasn't even what you wanted in the first place. So here's my challenge to you. Think about the areas in your life where you're saying yes out of obligation or fear, and ask yourself if those things are really adding value. It's okay to choose peace, to choose joy, to choose yourself, because at the end of the day, the joy of missing out is really about finding the courage to live your life in a way that honors who you are and what you truly need. Thanks for tuning in to Tell You the Truth. If you found something valuable in today's episode, please share it with a friend, leave a review, and stay connected. Until next time, remember there's more joy in being present in your own story than in chasing someone else's. See you next week.